Well, it's nice, but yeah, it's. I think he's gonna get picked just because he's lone druid, and these little changes are nice, but they're not obviously drastic. Luna base agility reduced from 22 to 18. Ouch.
Digging it.
Yeah.
100% okay with this. Luna, and the other thing I think is kind of silly. Eternal Envy's Luna, which will do like the recovery Mask of Madness. It feels so silly that I'm happy that she is a little more fragile and does a little bit less damage overall. And I feel like she really is like one of the carries of the late patches. The glaives getting to bounce back to targets already hit, I feel like was a nice little buff to her that really helped put her in a really nice spot. And having this reduction, I'm totally okay with. Much like the next one.
Yeah. Lycan, go figure, getting a little nerf. Shapeshift no longer provides the bonus health 100, 200, 300 that it used to provide.
Totally cool with it. I feel
it's
like
strong enough without it. Let's be honest.
Yep, and I don't know. I feel like I've seen some Lycan struggling of late. I feel like he's had a really sort of rough time in some of the most recent games, unless being on dire side. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I'm totally cool with this, and I think being able to outrun everyone is fine enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's already got the move speed going. And speaking of move speed, Luna, fastest hero in the game, so she's already quick as hell. I think nerfing her, obviously, since we see her in basically every set, every game, and it's not only because of that awesome set that she has item-wise, but it is because the hero's so good. So yeah, seeing these two heroes nerfed, I'm very, very happy with it as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm done.
Oh,
You
you're in
may
the
proceed.
end, buddy. Buck. Magnus. Remove skewer maximum target limit. Skewer range increased from 600 up to 1200 to 750 up to 1200. It's a little bit better at those early levels.
Yeah.
150. Don't know if that's enough to bring it back into off-lane Magnus, but I'm fine with this. Again, the skewer limit thing is fine. I just don't think that creeps should necessarily be able to destroy the ability for that to function.
Yeah.
Especially when so many extra creeps are a big part of the meta like that, but in and of itself I feel like is potential to make Magnus an unattractive pick, so cool with this.
Yeah, I think that actually was a big reason why they did the change, just because of all the Necros and all the units, Lycan, all these other heroes that are getting all these different things out. The skewer limit never made a lot of sense to me in the first place, so I'm really glad to see this change. And yeah, I mean, he still gets picked up when there's a team calling for him, but obviously he's kind of getting outcasted by other heroes right now. So I mean, I don't think the range is going to make a dramatic difference, because like we said, late game it's still the same range no matter what. But yeah, who knows? Maybe it can help him out just a tad bit.
Yeah. I think these might actually be among some of my favorite changes, actually, of the patch. Probably up there, top 10. Say top 10.
Probably.
Medusa. Split shot. Reworked from being 50% up to 80% with 5 maximum targets at all ranks to 80% at all ranks, but now increasing number of maximum targets from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Mystic Snake no longer requires Fog of War Vision to bounce, so it just goes where it pleases. And Mana Shield damage absorption per mana increased from 1 at rank 1, going up to 2.5, to 1.6 up to 2.5 at the last rank. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe there is a change in the fixes for Mana Shield to not be charged when a magic immune and hit by magic abilities or pure damage abilities. So making your mana actually count in those situations.
Yeah, obviously the Mana Shield change just purely impacting early game with it, because as the last rank is still 2.5 either way. But that those early levels of Mana Shield, you're so like kind of, I don't know the word to use, but you don't want to use it because you're like, I have a limited mana pool at this point in the game. I don't have a lot of regen, and I'm trying to save my mana up for some ultimates later on when I need them. So I'm not going to activate. I'll just take the damage and deal with it for now. So this kind of, because like gives you a little more incentive. Like if you need to use it, it's not such a devastatingly terrible ratio that it once was. It's still actually a little bit effective and efficient. So that is really nice. The split shot rework is very interesting. Essentially, banishing the ancient stacking strategy that was kind of getting used in pub scenes at least, and now just making it more of a focus fire with 2 up to 5 targets. At least that's how I'm kind of interpreting it. What do you think?
I'll be honest, I never even thought about that, and I like it. Now that you mention it, that completely slipped my mind. Because, yeah, I feel like in the pubs, like that's pretty much how the hero gets used, which isn't fun or interesting, I think. But I just really like that it feels like it's worth having at lower levels. Because, I mean, you would see builds that would just, like, skip it completely, or that would just focus on it, maxing it out because you just want to be able to make it efficient and do the maximum damage as early as possible. I feel like it now scales with the flow of the game, where if you get 1 or 2 points in it early, you're like, okay, I can hit all of the heroes that are likely to be in my area for the first 10 minutes maybe, and then really we're only going to have the ability to hit 5 targets when you're most likely to be hitting 5 targets in the later part of the game. I think that change just makes a lot of sense, and I really like it a lot. I feel like Medusa is a hero that I just in general like. I liked the change to the ultimate. I think there's sort of the strength of the ultimate. It could be like there maybe goes one change and then all of a sudden it'll be like Lycan, where you'll see one change that you might not necessarily think is that huge, and then all of a sudden he's everywhere and winning. But I do want to see her used at least occasionally, because I do think that she is a neat hero.
No, absolutely.
The way she is now.
She is. And we said when that ulti got changed over that she became dramatically more useful. Level 6, you can team fight now and be effective and helpful. And we see late game Medusa is just so hard to deal with. They're like, okay, we had to focus fire because she's doing so much damage, but then when we try to, she ulties and we can't look at her. So this is really awkward, and we don't know how the hell to deal with this right now. It's kind of one of those situations that late game is just a big pain in the butt. And if she has any other physical damage, as we said, TA. There's a couple other ones where like if she gets with these other heroes and gets that stone form on people, yeah, they're going to be taking dramatically high amounts of damage. Even Centaur, hey, double edge, physical damage, let's go for it, man. I don't know. I think there's interesting potential. I obviously, with the split shot change, now her early potential damage is lowered, you could say, because 5 targets at 50% was 250% damage, whereas 80 at 2 is 160. So his earlier ranks are less damage theoretically, but the way you were saying it, and I agree, is that when you're using it in the earlier parts of the game, how often are you hitting 5 targets? Not often. It's generally 2 to 3 if you're doing like a neutral camp, or if you're hitting maybe a couple heroes at a time. So it's actually just seems, as the game progresses, as you're leveling it up, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I feel like if you're thinking of it in terms of maybe the total damage output, it's less, but maybe if you think of it as like the effective damage output, like the fact that you're hitting 2 heroes and 3 creeps is like, okay, the creeps don't really matter. You're hitting 2 heroes for 50% damage at rank 1, whereas if you're able to get like an early engage on that rank 1, you're just off the bat doing more damage than you would be otherwise. And I guess really just you're worried about the random chance of where your second arrow is going and if it is going to hit another hero. But I feel like it is a buff to her early game presence, and I think it's kind of interesting. She's a little bit stronger in the lane, and I think that's to make people want to put her in the lane as opposed to in Ancients, which is probably destroyed now because of the change to split shot. But it also sort of makes her more vulnerable than with her Ancient strategy, because now you have a lane where you see where she is, you have the ability to target her. But I think that's reasonable. One of the squishiest heroes in the game, making a mana shield more effective, it is a cost to have to absorb that much damage, so I'm pretty cool with it.
Alright, let's move along. God, we have so much to go through, man.
There's so many things.
There's so many things, so we gotta power through here. Alright, you ready? Bear
Drink
with
my
me.
Red Bull, my shot of Jaeger, ready to go.
Gosh, that sounds like an awful idea. Meepo. Base move speed increased from 305 to 315, gaining 10 move speed. So Bonk, obviously listening to the cast, couldn't be happier with himself right now. What do you
Yeah,
think?
and I feel like it's even more effective on Meepo than it is for other heroes, just because the hero has to land the net. That's easier to do to hit like a slow moving projectile if you're moving faster. And whenever we mention these movement speed changes, I feel like it's something that's easy to overlook. And I like to point out that Meepo is now faster than 22 more heroes than he was previously,
Right.
which is a large percentage of the pool.
Right.
Faster than, let's say, around 20% of the heroes. Um, and I think that that's huge, and I think that that's fine. I think it even really adds to Meepo's fort position, just because it makes your ability to hit the nets a little bit easier, your ability to chase people down a little bit easier, and so I feel like it's a little bit less of a gamble having if you pick up the Meepo for the support role. There's a lot less potential for bust.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree completely. He does move around a lot. You also use his meepos in different parts of the map, so having him move faster through between the jungle camps or doing whatever else he needs to do between the lanes, every little bit counts. So, of course, when you get the blink dagger, the projectile thing becomes less of an issue because you blink and then do all the nets, so you'll probably line it up well. But still, before you have blink, it's definitely a nice factor to throw in there. Mirana's Sacred Arrow Vision reduced from 800 to 650, so more narrow, more accurate. Mirana's used all the time. What do you think?
I'm fine with this. I'm surprised it's maybe not more, but I guess at the same time, I don't know what you would really do that wouldn't hurt the hero too much. So it seems reasonable.
She seems pretty balanced, I'd say. Maybe the ultimate could be tweaked more, but I think the rest of her kit's fine.
I even like the ultimate, just because it's so niche.
Well, that's what I'm saying then. It's kind of hard to mess with her otherwise.
hmm Yeah, maybe you could do leap stuff, or maybe tone down the damage on Starstorm. But I don't know. I think you're probably hitting the nail on the head. I mean, I guess she's fair, and decreasing the vision I think is a fine way to try to tone her down a little bit without breaking her completely. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Naga Siren, waiting for these nerfs. Mirror image illusion damage dealt reduced from 30 up to 45%. Yeah, okay, fine. Just jump in.
Sorry.
Riptide. I know you want to get through these.
I'm sorry, I'm trying.
Riptide area of effect reduced from 350 to 320. Riptide negative armor no longer goes to magic immunity. All these things I feel like are reasonable. I feel like the mirror image illusions doesn't really matter because you're really just using them for Riptide. Okay, it's a smaller area. It's still doing the same amount of damage. The fact that it doesn't work on magic immune targets I think is fine. And I feel like these are all reasonable and really don't kill the hero.
Yeah, I think, she already has one ability that goes through magic immunity. Why do you need two? So, yeah, that's fine with me. That the 10% can make a difference late game where your thing's actually tanky and does a lot of damage. Like, when you see it just chasing after a support hero and killing it with Radiance Burn and attacks, like, oh my god, this illusion's way too strong. But you can see that they're still just as durable as they were before, so it's not like they became more vulnerable to attacks. They just do a little bit less damage, and like you said, the majority of the game they are used mostly for that Riptide, / Radiance burning other lanes. So that part of it's not really going to be affected at all. So, but he did get nerfs, and as we see him picked a lot, I have no issues with any of these.
Yeah, for sure. This I'm actually pretty excited about. I don't know about you. The Necrophos buffs. Heartstopper area of effect increased from 1,000 to 1,200. Reaper Scythe now adds 30% duration to the respawn timer. Before I get your opinion on this, I just want to say one thing. I really like that we're continuing to see additions to how the developers are sort of screwing with the new things that they have decided are now within limits to touch, like abilities being cast on buildings, messing with respawn timers, messing with buyback. Most of this, I think, done with Necrophos and Meepo, and then of course you're looking at the building stuff with Tree and Lich. But I think it's interesting that these sort of components are being opened up more broadly to more heroes, but still a small number, so it still feels niche. What do you think about these buffs?
I'm not the biggest fan of the range or effect increase. I think 1,000 was already crazy big, so 1,200 is just like obscene. That is a far, far distance. Now, granted, it's not like huge damage output, but over time, it's definitely noticeable. And I don't know. I think it's fine. Like, I don't think it's going to change anything dramatically, but I didn't know. I think that's going to be a pretty big change that could be really noticeable in a game. The 30% duration thing is very interesting, and does that... Okay, I'm sorry. Did you just explain it in the sense that that does not say Aghanim's upgraded?
Correct.
So, wow, that's just really good.
Aghanim's affects the buyback component.
Yeah, so
you
that's
have the
when I
potential.
first rolled through this, I thought it was just the Aghanim's one because that's how I kind of my brain interpreted it because the Aghanim's one, as you said, is what makes them not be able to buy back. But yeah, so they're just going to gain a longer respawn timer. Oh, that's nuts. That's nuts. And obviously, since it guarantees the credit for him, it's always going to work that way, assuming it gets the kill or the killing blow occurs during it. So, yeah, I like it. I do like it. And it's obviously going to continue to make you want to use it on carries throughout the game, as they usually have the highest levels and therefore the longest buyback or longest death timers. But yeah, combine that with the Aghanim's upgrade, that's scary. They're not now no longer they can't buy back. Now they're dead forever. That's freaky late game.
Yeah, no, that's super strong potential. Could you imagine if they bought back and then you get your Aghanim's upgrade and then
You're
you
dead
kill them
for
with the side?
300 seconds. Yeah, you just might as well grab some popcorn and some beer and just get. That's a weird combo, but you should get something to come back because yeah, you're dead for the rest of the game. Wow.
Yeah, I think these are neat because Necrophos is a hero that doesn't really get played and is super snowbally. I feel like that doesn't really change with these buffs. And honestly, I like both of them. I mean, yeah, Heartstopper Aura is far, but I feel like that's really a big part of what gives him sort of any amount of lane presence. I mean, obviously Death Pulse is nice for the heal and the damage,
Right.
but I feel like Heartstopper Aura is really what gives you an amount of control within the lane. So, yeah, that is really far, but I can live with it for now. And, yeah, affecting respawn time, pretty interesting. The real question is, how do you get to bait your enemy Necrophos into using the ultimate on you, Vengeful Spirit, when we get to that change? That'll be later. But I think this is neat. And, just builds on that Aghanim's capability and maybe makes Necrophos even a little bit greedier. And now you really want the Aghanim's inability to buy back.
I'm pretty sure there's also some visual change they did for the when someone dies under the effects, it says it or shows it. There's a visual for it when you die under Aghanim's upgrade.
To say get wrecked.
Basically, essentially, it says
throw in the towel.
Go take a bathroom break or something. I don't know. That was really not funny, but that's okay. Yeah. So interesting changes. We'll see how it toils with everything.
A Night Stalker Darkness now also affects vision of buildings. Fine
Okay.
with me. Digging it. Nyx Assassin. Impale cooldown increased from 11 to 13. Impale can no longer be blocked by Lincoln Sphere. Also digging
Very
it.
good. The Impale
Makes sense.
being blocked by Lincolns is really frustrating for Nyx players. And
Doesn't make sense anymore.
It doesn't, because you don't target, right. So, why is it blocking it? Right, Lincoln's is targeted spells, so watch out for Beastmaster axes, eh? But no, I think this is great. Now, granted, that cooldown nerf is kind of annoying, for sure. But, I think he'll take that trade-off any day of the week, probably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Nyx feels more like a niche pick, for teams that really want to use him for, a supporter, maybe the more likely off lane, and that's fine with me. If he's had his day in the sun, I think, and I feel like neither of these are really breaking. I mean, how often do you see a Lincoln Sphere, A, and B, 2 seconds, you're still going to be able to use it multiple times within a fight. So, I'm fine with both of these, and I really don't think that you'll see anything too dramatic as far as his pick rate just because of this, unless it's because other heroes are being picked more,
Right.
You win. I lost by getting Keeper of the Light, and you get your buddy
I do.
to read.
I do. Well, I'll start with this one, though. Ogre Magi. Base armor increased by 1.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say that Ogre Magi is not your bro? That's who I was talking about.
Well,
and you're just like not even excited. You're just like, armor, cool,
Ogre,
whatever.
Ogre's never been my. I mean,
I thought you guys were
he's
down.
been a bro. Well,
I
I
thought
guess
you guys.
bros. There's two heads. You
I thought
gotta.
you had like matching anklets or something. Like I thought you were digging it. You did like arts and crafts together on the weekends, or
That was to be kept
No.
under wraps, and you just
Oh,
blew
sorry.
that right out of
I
the
don't
water.
know.
He already has 6 base armor. So
Yes, he does.
7, just because he's really freaking tanky early game. Like almost on tree levels. Like he has 590 health with now 7 armor. Hits for like 60 damage. Not bad. Not bad at all. The attack point very quick as well for denying and whatnot. And last hitting when you go Maelstrom build. So, yeah, I don't know. And then the cast animation improved from 0.56 to 0.45. That's actually really nice. Get a 10th second shaved off there, and you can notice that cast time for his Fire Blast and Ignite and whatnot. So, yeah, I like both these changes. I mean, I don't think the base armor's really going to make too much of a difference, but still it's a buff, and he's clearly a hero that could use buffs.
Well, I thought it was funny when I was listening to a cast of is LD and Merlini, and Merlini was surprised to see that Ogre was getting buffed because he felt that he was plenty strong as it was, and that's interesting because you don't really see him that often unless it's in conjunction with the Lone Druid, or unless you're Hani and you're playing him mid and you're using it to buff your friendly Tiny, which
No.
was a thing if you didn't get to see that game.
No, did not.
I caught the end of it, and it wasn't that he did super stellar as far as the stats go. I mean, it was still nice to have a Bloodlusted Tiny, but it's interesting, and I think these are fair buffs. I don't know that I would say that Ogre is strong enough without these. I mean, he has a niche role, and I think it's almost sort of like what we were saying about the other heroes, where not that Bloodlusting the Bear is abuse, but when you're just like using it for that functionality, then it's kind of like you're missing out, I feel like, on a lot of what the hero has to offer. And now he's a super tanky, durable support and or mid laner, apparently, that can get his spells off a little bit faster. And I think that's pretty reasonable all around.
We missed the hidden patch note there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Now has a 50% chance to be picked in a pub game. Yeah, followed under the Chaos Knight rules, but
I wonder if this is enough for pubs to care. I feel like people that like Ogre Magi anyway might pick him up a couple times.
they
Just to
picked
see how
him
it
when the
feels.
OG thing hit. Yeah, I don't think this is going to make or break it for pub people, but
It's gonna be for the diehards. I thought you, but apparently you guys
no, we
Got
left
your
on
matching-
bad terms.
you got your matching tattoos removed, so I don't even know you
I
anymore.
don't like the color blue very much anymore. More into white. Speaking of which, Omni Knight Purification area of effect increased from 225 to 240.
Mhm.
Repel no longer removes positive buffs from allies. This means that Repel will no longer remove Guardian Angel. And Guardian Angel duration increased by a second. And the Aghanim's Guardian Angel duration increased from 5, 6, 7, which was the old duration, now up to 8, 9, 10. This also was part of the question. Actually, there's a new one too. Do you guys think that with the changes to Repel, by Alex Tooby, by the way, sorry, Omni Knight might see more competitive play? If so, which role do you think he'll fill? So, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. I think we might see him more as like a super sneaky fifth pick. I feel like it's probably I really like picking him up in conjunction with Weaver personally. I like the sort of the dual lane Weaver Abaddon that was kind of going on for a while. I kind of like putting Omni into that sort of role and seeing how he would function with that. And Omni Knight's a hero that we've seen getting buffs here and there per the patches. Some of them rather small, like Degen Aura is sticky by an extra half a second, but I think these are really nice buffs. Again, I think the thing that I'm almost most interested in is what does this do for Diffusal Blade, because that still is going to wind up being your be-all, end-all to trying to counter this out. The fact that the Guardian Angel duration is increased means that, okay, well, maybe if it's 8 seconds long, if you Diffusal Blade somebody and kill them, you're still likely to have a little bit of time that everybody else is going to be quite immune. So there's that. I think that's in his corner. I think it'll be like you'll see him picked up once in a while. I don't think it's going to like push him in anywhere crazy, and I also don't think that Oghanims is going to matter, unfortunately.
Oghanims, no. I mean, it was such an interesting thing, but it was so not practical for the hero. This is again one of those heroes that you could totally see one of these other utility items like Mech or Piper, basically anything else, get really picked up from him. And yeah, I don't know. They buffed it again, but it just seems impractical. But it is again one of the only abilities that works on towers. So you gotta give it that little prod there.
I mean, honestly, I think that the increased duration is really what you're getting out of the Oghanims. I mean, and then it's also global. It's kind of a big deal as well.
That is cool too.
You know, there are still a couple of support heroes that I feel like if you find yourself in a position to get a Midas early on, or mid on, I like it on Omni Knight if you're able to, just because I feel like you benefit from the level so much, and it's just nice to help you get other items. And because you're already providing a heal, you could say, hey, maybe I'll skip the mech for now. Maybe you might be able to find yourself in a position where if you're able to get out of control, Guardian Angel or the Oghanims is a nice nail in the coffin. But yeah, I mean, your typical Omni Knight, if you are comparing it to like the Abaddon Weaver lane and you have an Omni Knight Weaver, you're never going to see creeps unless you're killing them with Purification, probably by accident, or you're trying to troll people. So I feel like the buffs are nice. I feel like he could be like a super sneaky 5th pick if there's nobody on the other team that would really want to pick up Diffusal, but I don't know that it's really going to put him into a terrific spot.
Yeah, I like the Purification range buff. I think that is kind of challenging to hit a lot of times, so I think giving it that 15 extra little bit, just that little bit extra, will be pretty nice to have. But yeah, all around, to answer his question, from my opinion, I don't see this putting him back in the meta at all. But I do think, like you said, maybe a sneaky pick here and there. He's always been a powerful hero, so you gotta give him that credit. The ultimate. Very nice to kind of delay the enemy from killing off your whole team, and Repel can be so nice to have. And unfortunately, some of the heroes in the game right now, like Mirana and others, are heroes that benefit from getting a Diffusal, Naga Siren too. So, picking him into a meta full of these heroes is kind of unfortunate because he will just get kind of a lot of Diffusal things off, but no, I think he can still be very viable, especially the pub scene. I think he's fantastic there. But as a support, I don't see him as a 1 or 2 or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest buff is the Repel no longer removing buffs, and that's, I think, huge. That's huge. That's probably...
Warlord attack speed, let's go!
That's probably the biggest boon in this set of buffs. I think the last time we looked at Omni Knight, we found out that he was equally picked for the 3 role as he was for a support role or otherwise. So, and I don't see that being a thing unless you're super sure that you're going to be able to put him in a one-on-one matchup. Other than that, yeah, I really do think it's going to be for like those weird dual lane situations. Tri-lane, I don't know. Probably not. I feel like you want the levels.
Probably. Yep.
So, Phantom Assassin, Stifling Dagger cooldown reduced from 8 to 6. Why not? Blur Evasion chance up to 50% at rank 4. Why not? Why not do that thing? 50%. That's a lot.
Why not give more reason to buy MKBs against him?
Yeah. Now it's pretty obvious.
I like the Stifling Dagger buff. I mean, obviously ever since they buffed it to now work with your crit chance, I like, they're just making it that much more effective, being a shorter cooldown. And obviously the mana cost is so negligible that shorter cooldown is not going to play too much of a role. And it's going to help you last hit a lot more in the early parts of the game too. So, these are nice changes.
Yeah, the Stifling Dagger one I think is kind of nice, just... it's because it's so much more spammable. Like you said, with the crit, it feels, I think, a lot nicer, especially, once you're able to hit that level 6, even just tossing it out at supports to see if you can push them away from you or, to harass people out of your lane, I think it's totally viable. And, the evasion doesn't really ramp up on Blur into the late levels where you're expecting that whoever you're facing is going to be looking to get an MKB if it fits into their kit. But yeah, now it's almost like if they pick a hero that doesn't want to get MKB, like someone that really wants the agility, and you're able to sort of like get a last pick PA against them, you're like, what's up? How are you going to deal with this? Because that is a lot of dodge, and it's to the point where I feel like you could almost force heroes that don't want it into getting it.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a nice change. Phoenix, not a good change. You want to talk about?
Icarus Dive, cast point extended from .01 to .2. Wow. And Fire Spirit's damage reduced from 15 going to 75 to 10 going to 70. Fire Spirit's health cost increased from 15% to 20%. From .01 to .2.
This is like the Leshrac nerf with eyeball heating.
It is a number of fractions of a second. I don't know what the percentage nerf on that is. I'm not even going to try it. I'm going to say it's like 200%.
10 times 10 to the power.
Something. But that's obviously a pretty huge number change there. And I don't think anybody is going to argue against that one. And, bringing Fire Spirits to heal, I think, is also pretty reasonable considering the attack speed slow that they're able to put on. And, there are plenty of games where Phoenixes are just sort of able to 1v1 people, and it seems a little kind of ridiculous.
He's such a good offlaner right now. He's such a good. Well, all around, yes. But he's so difficult to keep out of harm, like to deal with an offlane, because if you're a support trying to harass, like trade blows, Fire Spirits are going to ensure that he wins that trade-off. He can escape really easily, and at level 6, it's very difficult to deal with that ultimate, and it's just, he's such a strong hero. I mean, obviously not in Captain's mode yet, but they're trying to balance him to the point, and it's probably going to take maybe even another round of changes to this hero before he's really comfortable, but he just seems super strong right now, and I think these are a good starting point to take him down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you might be looking for near instant forms of crowd control in order to stop him from flying away, which is at least now an option, whereas it wasn't before.
Right.
Tuning down the damage, tuning down the health cost is maybe negligible because you're going to be going for Trank Boots, so it might just be most effective really early on, but I still think that that's a fair thing to do. And yeah, I like all these. I think that this is at least going to make them more fun to play against in pubs. Yeah, I'm curious to see if there is another round of nerfs. It'll be I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Pugna, Decrepify mana cost reduced from 100 to 60. Nether War duration increased from 25 to 30. Buffs to Pugna, kind of interesting.
Yeah, but they're not like big buffs. It's Decrepify mana cost, which, let's be honest, is not one of the big spells you think of when you think of Pugna right now. And Nether War duration 5 more seconds. Usually it dies before it even hits its last duration tick. So, yeah, these are obviously nice changes for him. But 40 mana cost on a hero like Pugna who has tons of mana to go around in the first place, I think the Nether Ward's only the one that really makes a big difference. And yeah, I'm not thrilled about it, but I guess it's nice. I'm really not. Yeah. I'm really not.
I'm fine with it, and Pugna also is a hero that benefits from the fixes. You can now not hear Nether Blast from the Fog of War, which I feel like is actually kind of a big deal
that
because
it makes that little sound that
makes a lot of noise until it comes, which is a while. And also the sort of ramp-up noise only plays for allies. It's coming, so you have to be looking for the visual. You can be caught off guard, maybe a little bit more easily now by the Nether Blast. So, fine. Still, I mean, I guess he has fallen off from when he was super popular, but, still gets picked up from time to time. So I hope that not much more gets done with him because I feel like he should be sitting pretty comfortable after this.
Yep, he's in a good place, for sure.
On to all the Qs.
All of them.
Don't run out of breath.
One. That's good.
True.
Queen of Pain. Shadow Strike cooldown reduce 4 seconds across all the ranks. See how I did that? Just did the quick napkin math in my head there. 4 seconds. So that 4-second cooldown at the last rank. That's pretty short, needless to say. Shadow Strike cast range increased also from 400 to 435, which is really cool considering that a lot of Queen of Pains level 1 get that Shadow Strike so you can shoot it on them and harass them down. And now that it has 35 more reach, That's really handy in the middle lane there to really help step up your harassment and do that in kind of a safe environment without having to worry about some supports coming through the middle and ganking you when you try to put that on them.
Yeah, remind me, who is this hero again? Because did they remove her from captain's mode and pubs and bot games
She's just gone.
and art and library
I still have my Navi
and Dota 2 wiki?
my Navi set, so it's cool. But
I think the Shadow Strike thing is actually pretty interesting because the duration on the Shadow Strike is 15 seconds. And now that it's a 4-second cooldown, you can be applying the Shadow Strike to just about everybody. That's pretty cool. I dig that. So, again, I like this hero you just never see, so I'm fine with seeing some buffs to her. She really was really strong against all of the melee mid laners, and again, they are sort of less prevalent now, except for the Naga Siren and the Ember Spirit. So it's kind of nice to see things being done to her to try to make her more viable in general and more effective in team fight scenarios even.
Mm-hmm.
Razor, strength gain increase from 1.7 to 2.3, unstable current slow duration increase from, let me do my napkin math, there isn't any, from 0.4 to 1.6 up to 0.5 to 2. There might actually be napkin math in there, I just didn't want to do it.
There is, but it's fine. But yeah, slow duration increase, so okay. I mean, obviously he's going to be a little bit tanky, which obviously Razor needs tankiness. That's kind of how he gets to do all his damage by surviving. Slow duration's kind of nice. It already was really nice. You generally saw him used against Lifestealer and OD a lot, and now that both of them are kind of not in the season. OD you see make appearances. Lifestealer's kind of just been gone, but he's still a strong matchup against OD, and now that the slow's even better against OD, that's kind of really nice.
Yeah, and like you said, you get to see him every once in a while, the OD. Like Arteezy played him during Star Ladder. He's made some appearances here and there, but I like both of these. I feel like they make him more generalized, which is fine, because like you said, he really is just sort of the answer to one or two heroes. So I like seeing him. I like the hero a lot, personally. I enjoy watching him, so I'm cool with these. Ricky, backstab now works when attacking allied units. I feel like that's bigger than it sounds. The ability to deny super well in the lane. I mean, really, these are the changes that have been happening to Ricky of late. They've been to help him in the lane. It's been the health regeneration and now the backstab helping you to deny. Sort of like when people complain about Sniper being able to headshot allied creeps. I feel like this really gives him an advantage to sort of deny against the opposing lane, and cool with it. He still is going to have his issues, which is going to be the ability for the enemy team to, Dust too, and just for people to be able to force staff each other out of the cloud. And again, not to just keep mentioning like one of the last things we're going to talk about for heroes, but Zeus is a little bit better against him now, so that's kind of cool. Yeah. So why not give him a little bit of something to make him more relevant when he isn't really
just as much as he did in the past. So never fear, he will be a pub stomp king for the rest of his days.
Yeah, but that's like, I feel like even maybe for low level pubs, I feel like once you get to that mid level and you're sort of realize that you have to buy vision and stuff, he isn't even that hard to deal with. I guess you still have the people that won't build force staff against him, but once you start getting to the upper levels, I feel like
you fail to realize that just because you're a good support player doesn't mean everyone else in our range is. And
yeah, I guess
even if they are, it doesn't mean they're going to buy vision when they should. There's a lot of people that do not do what they're supposed to do, if you can believe that or not. So I think he will forever, maybe not in like 6k MMR where people are like, alright, I just want to win, but like, we played like the 4 to 4.5k range, and there's still people not buying Sentries and Dust against Ricky. So I'm just saying, it totally happens.
Don't worry, Jay, I'll keep you safe.
Please
I got you, buddy.
I need you to get my back, but don't backstab me. Don't do it. I know you're tempted now. This next one's pretty... Well, here we go. continuation of the Oghanims rounds, Shadow Demon has an upgrade for Oghanims. Demonic Purge cooldown replaced with count it, 2 charges that have a 40-second recharger time. So the current ultimate cooldown for Shadow Demon, 50 seconds. So now it's shorter by 10 in general, and it's a recharging time. What do you think?
Interestingly, point in putting more than 1 point into Shadow Demon's ultimate. It's kind of funny. I mean, the damage.
100 damage, baby.
Ooh. Considering what you get out of everything else, I'm sort of on board. I was sort of caught off guard the first time I heard that, and I was just like, yeah, no, I get it. That's kind of interesting. Shadow Demon getting picked up a lot more of late, but I don't think this is ever going to be a thing. I guess you can sort of farm with your Shadow Poison, kinda, but I don't know that I would ever see needing 2 charges of the Demonic Purge being so important that
It's
I would
interesting.
prioritize it.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, you're right. You're right. No, I don't think I would level it up still. I think all 3 of his other abilities are way too good that you don't really... It's kind of like upgrading Disruptor's ult. It's like, do I really need to do it compared to his other abilities? Especially now that Kinetic Field's even better with points. Let's think about that. But I do like the upgrade, but in terms of the question that was asked, do we actually think the Oghanims are going to get? I'm still saying no. Unfortunately. I think that Blink Dagger, Force Staff, I think he needs to worry about positioning mostly in order to get in there, get his disruption down where he needs to. Just all these other items, mech, they all seem so much stronger for him than this Og, but it's a cool... That's always seems to be the deal with Oghanims for the most part. It's like, oh, that's cool, but okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that it's going to be sought after, really. And yeah, Force Staff, I feel like it's going to be so much more important. Even the Blink Dagger. If you want to get Arcane Boots to help out your team and help support your Shadow Poison addiction, to throw a bunch of those out.
Dagon, obviously, with Soul Catcher.
Of course,
And
the
now-
necessities, an E-Blade. So I think it's neat. But I even like you said, it's cool, I guess. But I really don't even see a point where I'd be like, you know what, I could really use right now? An extra ultimate. I mean, I guess it's always going to be nice, but
The other way you can look at it is you can basically perma-slow one hero for like an entire fight. Because you could use it on the hero, and then when it's up, you can use it again. So like that carry is just slowed for a long time. If you live long enough to cast both on the hero. But you don't have to necessarily use it on 2 different heroes. You save it for the second one. Or like pull off a really effective gank, disrupt into a double ult like that. That person's held down for a long time.
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Are you reading S or am I?
Oh, sure, why not?
I don't
there's
know
so
where
many
we are
S's.
anymore.
We're just
So
going to
many
read them.
S's. Oh, yeses.
Shadow Feed, the Requiem of Soul's secondary debuff now affects magic immune. That's really nice. Getting that slowdown on people, really handy.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think it's needed. Shadow Fiend is a tricky devil, being that glass cannon, and I feel like being able to just go like, BKB, now half your stuff doesn't work. Now you just have to right-click me is kind of a hard place to put him. So at least he does have that debuff now that he can apply through the ult. So I'm on board with that. And you know what? I'm just going to steal these next 2, actually.
Do it. They're yours.
I'm gonna hijack. I'm gonna hijack all over the place. Silencer. Agility growth increased from 2.1 to 3. Curse of the silent cooldown reduced from 20 to 14. I'm not even gonna look for your math. To 20 to 8. I don't care about your numbers. Silly numbers. I love these 2.
Oh, Curse of the Silent. I hate that spell with a
What are
passion.
your thoughts?
The
general,
agility
other than
one
hating stuff?
doesn't phase me just because I think I want someone to tell me what that actually means for the hero instead of me just reading that as a stat. Because I really don't get it. Obviously armor gain, attack speed, but I don't know how much over time. I mean, it seems like a pretty decent increase, 0.9. It's almost 1 agility growth, which is pretty fantastic for any hero. But obviously he's not an AGI hero, so it's not like insane. But I don't know. Okay, I was in love with. Well, I wasn't in love. The Curse of Silent cooldown. What do you think? What are they trying to do here by lowering those last ranks cooldowns?
It doesn't really matter, other than I guess just making him do more stuff in team fights. Just because, I mean, even last word when you get to the upper ranks, 12-second cooldown at rank 4. If the thing with Curse of the Silent, I guess too, is it sort of has to be a low cooldown because there is just the potential for you to completely dispel it almost immediately, if not immediately. So I feel like putting it on a low cooldown at high ranks does help the hero a good amount, because then there isn't this potential for multiple heroes just be like, done. Now, what do you got? Do enjoy that. As far as the armor goes, you look at the hero and his base stats, that is his weakest component. I mean, all of his gains are kind of, but he starts with 16 agility, 2.1 agility gain before, now up to 3, so it's actually his highest gain stat. This is a hero that has 300 base movement speed, so he's not getting around anywhere. He has no defensive capability other than the potential to disarm somebody through last word, and would like to be able to attack more often with the glaives. And he is one of those other supports, I feel like, that if you have the potential to get Hand of Midas, that I would totally do it if it was available to me early. So I like the fact that he still is sort of level dependent as he's always been, but that those levels count for a decent amount. So I just think the agility too. It just going up with the Glaive of Wisdom is nice, especially for even if he is in that support role where you're maybe saying that the amount of intellect that you have is negligible. Being able to toss him out at least at a decent rate, I think, is fine.
Yeah, I suppose so. By the way, I did a little research on agility. I figured out what it does.
Hey,
I know, right? So every agility gains 1 attack speed. So let's say he gains 1 per level now, extra. He'll gain an extra 25 attack speed, essentially, at the last, well, level 25, but yeah. And then every 7 points of agility, you essentially gain 1 armor. So roughly 3 more armor at the end of the game.
Yeah, and he does have pretty low armor.
Oh,
as hero
terribly
goes.
low.
Terribly low.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not bad to give him those things.
It's not gonna make him huge, but I think that it is something he deserves, because I even want to say in the times he's been picked recently, it's been to no avail, and as strong as Last Word is, I feel like he can use a little bit of help. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh baby, oh baby, I play Skywrath a decent amount as it is. This might be a spree. This might be one of the spree heroes now. Base movement speed increased from 315 to 325. Concussive shot damage increased by 10 at each rank. Are you happy for my math? From 50 to 200
I'm so proud.
to 60 to 240. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like both for, I mean, I think it's probably obvious, but for the roaming reasons. He's now faster than ever. And the concussive shot, which is his great ganking tool, now will start doing more damage. It does more damage in general across all the ranks. So, yeah, it just seems like he's just improved. He already was really effective. No hard lockdown or anything, but the slow is pretty good in the first place, and then you add a silence that's a super long duration. I think he's a really nice support to have around. I still don't love him in the mid role, but I think this really helps out for that 4 or 5 Skywrath mage argument.
Yeah, I think even his mid, I feel like it's helped out a lot, because when you look at some of the other movement speeds of the more popular mid heroes, you have Naga who's sitting at 325. That's fair, but you can slow her. She can net you, but you can get a little bit of trade there. OD and Magnus sitting at 315. I guess they can still sort of contest you for the runes. And Ember at 310, and those are really, I feel like, the big ones for the upper tier movement speed. Most of the other ones pretty low, actually, so having such a big disparity, I feel like, can help you at least for a little bit of rune control and moving around in other lanes and applying pressure elsewhere. But, similarly to the Meepo, you're looking at being faster than 17 more heroes. There's only one hero in the game faster than you, and the heroes that are on par with you are Chaos Knight, Lone Druid, and Lane Creep. So when this hero first came out, that was one of the things that I really liked about him, was just the fact that you have such a large area of influence, and the fact that you're so mobile, I think, only adds to that.
Skywrath Mage. My concussive or my arcane bolts might be slow, but damn it, I'm fast. And also, he has wings. I mean, if your hero has wings, I feel like you should be fast. So I'm all about this move speed increase. I say, give it to him.
It's weird that you're now as fast as a fat bear man. Well, I guess he's not a fat when he's in his person form. And, well, I guess a guy on a horse. That makes sense. How fast is Lone Druid that he's just as fast as a horse? He's working out. Until he turns into a bear. And then
he's a druid, yeah. I mean, he transforms into an animal. That's fine.
He's got, like, panther legs going.
Frickin' A. He's old, dude. He's been around the block a few times. You know?
That. Doing speed around the block. So.
That works.
Yeah, these were actually some of my favorite buffs, even though they're rather simple. And the concussive shot increase in damage, it's small, and the fact that you're amplifying that small increase with your silence is, still small. But I think important to point out that this little bit of damage is also being increased a little bit more because it's actually really quite easy to get Ancient Seal off after you shoot your concussive shot because of the speed that it moves and the speed that you move. How about the rest of the
How is this next one not your favorite? I mean, how was this next one not your favorite?
Sniper acquisition range not matching his maximum attack range. Hello, I've been complaining about this for years, and no one's been listening.
So basically, this affects his ability to auto-attack units as max range. Okay.
Auto-attack everywhere.
This is once again, this is a fix. So,
this is a fix, not a buff.
Exactly. It's just a fix. But this is not fixing the hero. He's still just sniper. But
hey,
we proved. Hey, you know what? We did our sniper ogre, and damn it all, it went pretty decently, better than I hoped. So.
And sniper did pretty good competitively for a little while there. Yeah. He's gonna come back. He'll be picked in TI4.
I thought Drow would have came back by now, so I'm kind of bummed out that she
just with the Sash.
Yeah.
It turns out.
Apparently.
But I will say that I really like the next set of buffs too. Actually, the next couple are actually quite nice. Spirit Breaker. Nether Strike cast range increased from 400 up to 700 to just 700. The Scepter range just goes up to 850. And Nether Strike cooldown rebounds from 75 to 80 at rank 1 and then 60 at rank 3. I like these. Obviously, saw Spirit Breaker drop off a little bit when he had the ability to be stopped in his Nether Strike, so I think allowing him to do it from further away earlier on in the game is reasonable and some much-needed attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's still one of those heroes that unfortunately he's kind of left in the dust. Has that Ogniv's available for his, for his ultimate, but once again, we don't care. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like he's still good for a roaming kind of meta. I mean, get that charge in with that bash, and you can maybe do a little work. But at least the ulti cooldown reduction is going to be nice in general. So, yeah, I'm okay. I'm on board with it. I'll put it that way. I like the changes.
Sven, base damage increased by 6. Talking to Joe before the show, I know this is one he was really looking forward to. How do you like it?
I personally don't care. I hate to be so indifferent, but we've talked about how Sven is just really, you stack him up to other carries in the game, and he's just so lackluster. I mean, yeah, he cleaves and hits like a truck, right? But what else does he really bring? Not a ton. So yeah, okay, 6 damage is pretty significant, though. Give that to any hero. They're going to be doing a lot better in the laning phase, which transitions to a better late game usually.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's 6 damage cleaved out. I think, he fell off a while ago, and he's been sort of getting buffed back into being useful. I still feel like he's going to need IO if he's going to look to do anything. And obviously this is just a carry buff, not a support buff. So that's fine. I don't know if I think he'll come back and be used anymore. I still think he's going to be IO dependent. Maybe you can say that this is nice because now there's sort of again a hero that's likely to be picked up that has the potential to have impact outside of just the tiny.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fair. He is really really strong with that IO pick. I do like that combination. The ganks are unreal with that.
And with your mid ogre Magi Bloodlust,
Well,
can't forget that.
you probably should, but you can't. So yeah, and then Joe was saying something about new jungling Sven is so good now. I'm like, okay, let's calm down a second. We're not let's not reach for the stars here. You know, stay on Earth here. It's gonna be fine. But no, I guess it'll help. Sure.
It's the T's, my friend.
Templar
There are a lot of
Assassin,
them.
Psionic Trap. I was supposed to do S's, by the way. You just kind of swooped in, but it's fine.
I'm sorry.
I really don't have an issue with it. Psionic Trap sub-ability now has the same cast point as the ability on the trap itself. So previously, the sub-ability and the ability on the trap had different cast behaviors. Both are 0 now. If you cast it with your hero, it would have taken longer. That's frustrating. And you know, it's funny, because I was one of those people that would have no idea. Because I never used it. I never used the trap's ability. I always used my hero's sub-ability. So that's really nice that they did that buff for us. You know, because obviously, yeah, if you're more, you know, I don't know the right word.
Hardcore.
Hardcore. That's probably a good one. I was probably
Elitist.
making fun of myself otherwise. But if you're really good about like knowing how to use specific traps in certain locations and being really on top of that management, then this wouldn't have impacted you so much. But for us lesser TA players that just like the hero but aren't that great at it, it's really nice to have that no cast point, as it shouldn't, in my opinion. I think I like it just detonating right away when you cast the sub ability. So this is a really nice buff for her.
Yeah, and you know she's been coming back a little bit more on the dire side. So it's kind of nice. I mean, it's not that it's a huge buff. I think it makes sense. I don't really see why there needs to be a difference between the two. So I'm fine with this completely.
No, exactly. So we can move along though. Not too big of a change. Terror Blade, on the other hand, now called Kitten Blade.
Kitten Blade.
Strength gain reduced from 1.9 to 1.4. Ouch. Reflection slow no longer persists through magic immunity. Ouch. And reflection duration rebalanced from 5 at level or all ranks, now 2.5 up to 5.5. Gosh, do they hate Terror Blade.
You know, I am totally okay with it though because that slow was pretty ridiculous. Especially
It was.
if you were an offlaner and there's support. How are you
And you
supposed
weren't
to walk up
Phoenix.
and do anything?
Yeah.
And you're not Phoenix. What are you supposed to do? And even beyond that, I feel like unless you have equal or unbalanced lanes in your favor, it's really hard to step up. Just because that is such a ridiculous duration. I mean, it's increased at the last rank, cool. But now that you can use magic immunity to shrug it off, he no longer feels like he is just like a carry killer, and it's a little bit easier to contest him. The strength gain reduced, so now even flimsier of a hero, even easier to pick off in the early game. I think the players in the mid role and even that are maybe playing in your off lane or in your supports are more encouraged to roam around to try and apply pressure, and I think that they will see the benefits of doing that. Because now he's a little bit more item dependent, and now he is less devastating at the super early points in the game.
It's like level 2, he could probably guarantee a kill with any support. It was so easy. He would go into his Super Saiyan form, hit like a truck, and then a 5-second slow. Pretty difficult, like you said, for any offlaner to really escape the clutches of that. But now it's 2.5, a lot less devastating. And but hey, you could think of it as a buff if you wanted, because of that last rank, half a second more of that duration. You gotta look for the pearls.
Silver lining.
The silver lining. That's it. That is literally it. Yeah. So
that is what you were.
He's pretty sunk by this point. As if it wasn't bad enough. In the strength gain, I mean, obviously his main weakness has been health. He's a squishy mofo because of that, and now it's even less health per level. So yeah, he's going to still go down really quick. So he's got to be really quick on that reaction time for his Sunder, I guess.
Yeah, I am so cool with this. I feel like it's almost on par with like the Medusa, where you to some extent feel like you need to go a defensive ability item before you go for something that is going to increase your damage a lot. And really, if you have support, the fact that it's only 2.5 seconds, I still feel like is reasonable, because somebody's going to start the fight. You're going to be there. You can walk up, lay in a couple auto attacks, reflect, metamorphosis. You still probably have a good chance of taking somebody down. But I feel like it's a lot less guaranteed if you don't have a super strong escape mechanism, and I'm okay with that.
I'm with you. Let's move on now. Poor guy. Tidehunter. Amazing changes. Ready for this one? Anchor
Yay.
Smash. Damage reduction increased from 40 to 60%. And Ancient Smash. Pretty much. Pretty much what it should be called. Anchor Smash now works on ancient creeps. However, it still does not affect Rashad. Darn. But
That's our
here
Tidehunter.
comes Hannah Montana back into the beta with his offlane Tidehunter. Am I right?
I don't know.
Yes.
60%'s nice, and yeah, that will help you. I feel like if you get one-on-one matchups where you're able to, get up there and sort of anchor smash and do your thing and then walk away. The ancient creeps thing I find strange. I kind of want to mess with that,
It's
but
awesome.
I feel like
I've messed with it.
you have.
You take like negligible damage, and especially if you get a point early in the shell to
Hear me
reduce
out, Jay.
damage out.
0440.
Maybe 1 point. Gosh, perhaps.
Stack the ancients, farm them.
No, you
Any
do
beta?
stack the ancients. That's what I'm saying. The offlane. Now it's kind of turned around a little bit. You stack them up when you're getting harassed out of the lane, and then you just anchor smash your way to victory. And it really is so low damage that you're taking from them. The uptime, you obviously do need to level up the anchor smash though to get that uptime to be more consistent. Because obviously when it's not up, they hurt like a lot. So. But it's just cool. It's a new way to interpret him, and I think it'll bring back that viability. Even if, let's say, you don't do that, still 60% damage reduction is enormous in any kind of capacity. Even if you run him as a 4 or 5 in the safe lane. So I think this is a really nice change of pace for him.
Yeah, I might be less convinced, but I would love to see him back. That's neat that he can do ancients. Like I said, I believe you, and that's a thing now. That's possible.
Yay.
So that's interesting. I hadn't soaked that all in yet. So I dig it. Yeah, that's cool. If he goes off lane, I'm okay with it, I guess, because he's still like you're getting the utility out. I mean, how does he stack up against other people? He can't really defend his lane per se, so there's still the potential for it to get sort of beaten down in a way that maybe Beastmaster wouldn't let it because of the axes. But yeah, 40 to 60% is actually a nice buff, and if you are able to get that Blink Dagger, which won't cost the mana,
Yep.
it'd be pretty slick.
Tinker. Heat-seeking missile is no longer blocked by Ethereal.
This is all the enthusiasm I can muster. You can't see it maybe if you're just listening to the show, but
Yay.
cool.
If that's one of those changes we're just going to kind of skip over. That's nice.
I feel like that makes sense. I feel like heat-seeking missile should not be stopped by ethereal. So,
I agree. Yay, with that
Tinker.
statement. It should also hit invisible units, right?
totally.
Every
That,
missile
I'm-
now hits invisible units is the new buff.
Die all invisible units.
Tidy's craggy exterior stun, now relevant to bear. Duration rescaled. So basically gained roughly a quarter second at the last rank. So it's 1.75 instead of 1.5. So,
Yeah, and a little less at the rank 1.
that's true.
Fine. Fine.
No big deal.
Poor bear.
Poor
Only
bear.
comment.
That's right.
Poor bear.
Rip bear. Troll Warlord's melee whirling axe's cast point improved had a 0.2, now it's just 0.
That's nice. I mean, Troll Vanish. I'm kind of sad about that. I miss him a little bit, so I'm okay with giving him a little bit more viability.
Yeah,
The next one.
it's pretty.
I mean, do you have anything else to mention with that?
Oh no.
I feel this is why I stole S, because you were destined for the T's.
Well,
Because
I
speaking
did
of
my
bros,
I did my run on this guy, so it's only right for me.
guess you have to do it again.
Snowball into this one.
Guess you got to do it again. Let's do 50 this time.
I'm more excited about it now because he also got the other buff. He got the buff to the ultimate too. So he's just been buffed all around, man. He's ready to go. But yeah, Tusk Snowball got reworked into a two-part ability. One which creates the snowball and the sub-ability to launch it. You have up to 4 seconds to use the launch sub-ability. The area that automatically pulls allies has been reduced, so now it's a 100 radius that it automatically pulls allies in, but allies within 400 of the snowball that's kind of winding up can be added to the snowball by right-clicking on them. So the Tusk right-clicks the ally that's within 400, they get pulled into the snowball. Once it's launched, enemies in the path get stunned and take damage. There's a base damage, which the base damage is the same as the old damage just purely, so 80 up to 200. Now the bonus damage per ally is 20 up to 50. Bonus speed per ally is 75, and the stun duration is the same, but the launch time is 4 seconds, like I said. So basically, instead of this like thing that's kind of growing over time and slowly getting to your target, now when you get a few allies, there's like actually a benefit, I have to say, to having allies in it. That's my initial thing. The second thing that's really, really important when I was messing around with this is that essentially is 4 seconds of you and your allies being invulnerable. That they can't do anything about unless the enemy hero walks into the frickin' snowball. I never thought about that until I tried it out. I went under a tower, started winding up the snowball, and just sat there invulnerable. Yep.
That's pretty
Think
slick.
of all the cool things people can use that to dodge abilities, do certain things. I mean, it's just really interesting the possibilities with that now.
You know, we don't always do science, but when we do,
What I
it's
really
good
want to
science.
try,
hmm
which I didn't get to do science for, let's say you have an ally TPing within 400 of you. Wind up the snowball and drag them in. Do they still TP out? That's what I want to try. Wouldn't that
not.
be crazy?
this definitely feels trollier, but I think, in general, I think it's healthier for the hero. I feel like it's stronger earlier now because you aren't dependent on your own movement speed, which means you don't necessarily have to have phase or phase drums in order to be able to close the gap quickly. And you also, I feel like it's going to be a lot more difficult to accidentally roll people in, which, has sort of been, I think, the thing that has made Snowball a hard skill to like, and Tusk, even in general, as a hero, a hard hero to like. So the fact that it's a lot more deliberate, I think, makes him a lot more viable. And, again, there are a couple teams, Loda Tusk. I'm curious to see if Alliance is willing to mess with him. I would say that this is definitely a buff to him. Definitely makes him stronger, in my opinion.
I also think it's faster in general. It used to move at a percentage of Tusk's speed, so if he was slow and he snowballed, it'd be like really slow. I think it just moves at a flat speed plus ally boost. Not 100% confirmed, but I do think that's how it works. I think it's just faster in general. So it's like sometimes it was really difficult to land that to chase after people, but now it's a lot quicker, and you can kind of throw people off about launching it. So I don't know. I think it's really impressive and going to make him a lot more useful in general.
Yeah, I agree. And onto the use. I really like this one a lot. The Undying buffs. Soul Rip area of effect increased from 975 to just 1300. Tombstone Zombie Deathlust max percent health threshold increased from 5 up to 20 to 20 to 35. Tombstone zombies no longer give any experience or gold, and the Tombstone bounty has actually been increased to balance this out. Now 150 at the last rank as opposed to 130. Scales up actually from rank 1. And Flesh Golem's Plague Era now affects Magic Immune units. I feel like every single one of these is actually a really nice buff, and it gives me hope to see Undying again, to be honest.
Yep, I agree. I do like every single one. It's kind of hard to start. Soul Rip area effect, that's a huge increase. 325 more radius is enormous. So yeah, I'm really excited about that one. The death loss max percentages for the zombies. The health threshold increased 15%. I mean, 20% at rank 1 is so nice. That's really going to help out a lot. Not giving experience or gold, so people can't just farm off your zombies off the tombstone, is really nice. They used to give 25 experience and 5 to 7 gold each, so that's really nice as well. And then the Flesh Golem aura now affecting magic immune is also just a nice thing to just have available to you. So yeah, I think this could totally ability form.
Yeah, I mean, the tombstone is still punishable if you place it poorly, but even at the last rank, it's like you kill 4 zombies, then that's like making up the difference in costs. And so I feel like it still winds up being beneficial this way. And I mean, just making the death loss thing, affecting that percentage, I feel like is really awesome. And the Soul Rip, it's like its viability is affected by that area because of how many units you can potentially steal health from. So all of these buffs I feel like are really nice, and Decay I feel like is always going to be it's the bread and butter spell that you're going to be casting out a bunch, and that's still just equally strong as it has been. So I really like affecting the rest of his kit, especially the ability to go through magic immune targets, much like Lena. I feel like it's a nice little increase to his niche appeal and overall viability.
Undying Elder Titan team's just gonna go ham
Dear
on
Lord.
people.
And Ember Spirit to make up for the damage lost.
There you go. Ursa we already talked about. We did. We're done with that.
No, we did.
The next one. Starts with a V. Ends with Vengeful Spirit. Can you guess who it is? Yeah.
I wanted to somehow come up with something else to say in there, but it's hard. It pretty much is just Vengeful Spirit.
When the Vengeful Spirit is slain, her killer is inflicted with a negative vengeance aura, which decreases the damage of her killer and their nearby allies until she revives. The damage reduction is based on Vengeful Spirit's vengeance aura level and has a 900 range of area of effect around the killer. So we don't know that percentage yet, but it sounds pretty dang good.
I want to say it's equal?
You think so? So like up to what, like 30% roughly?
Or equal?
No,
so whatever.
I mean if her aura is like 36%, so it'd be a 36% damage reduction?
I want to say so.
That sounds
ridiculous. It does sound ridiculous. Here may have been a great place to check for science. But I really like this for many reasons. I know, again, Bonk and Orange were talking in a Skype chat about these changes. I know Orange was like really like LOL Suicide Swap OP. I really also, aside from Suicide Swap, just like that this is a hero that is always sort of going to be in harm's way from not just running up to cast the not super long range stun to run into the short range auto attack and then eventually swapping people and most likely putting yourself into a bad position. Again, how do you bait Necrophos into ulting you is the real question. And my other question would be, I wonder if there's any interest in sort of the way that a really, really long time ago, when you and I were Hanis, do you find the Andromeda builds of like 144?
Oh, instead of the magic missile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially now with this change. I mean, obviously early levels she's not dead for very long, so it's not like dramatic. But when you swap yourself in, obviously you're leaving yourself vulnerable. So now at least there's some kind of punishment for killing her when she swaps in. And generally it's going to be the carry most of the time, or someone of importance that's kind of in the middle of the team, I would say. So, that 900 aura is pretty big, and that's like, unless they're really split up well somehow, which I doubt it. I think this is going to be a pretty impactful thing, and I think the aura is going to maybe get more priority because of this change.
For sure. And I feel like also too, when you're putting points in the aura, you're buffing the creeps, and if you're being super picky about it, you could say that putting points in the aura is making your lane push more, and so it might have a negative effect. But I feel like even really early, if you're trying to engage and the enemy team is able to turn around on you, if you're, level 3, level 4, and you have 1 point in this, if you go down early from being short range and putting yourself out there, then at least you still are providing some benefit to your team beyond, just the stun or the negative arm that you were able to throw out. So I'm kind of digging it.
Bringing back
I like
the
it a lot.
carry vengeful too. The one vengeful spirit.
Well, that was the thing, too, that I think is kind of interesting. When you saw, even, I guess now Vengeful Spirit gets picked up on Snow Blue Moon, but the last time she was super prevalent, she was just stacking movement speed just so that she could get herself back out. And it actually seemed to work out pretty well, to be honest with you. But you needed the items. So now it's like totally cool if you die, I feel like.
Right.
You definitely don't want to swap and then just explode. But honestly, even if that happens, you could still be pretty happy with it, that you're doing a decent amount of work, especially against teams that have multi-core lineups where maybe you swap one of them out and are able to negatively impact the other one or two.
Yeah, you don't want to die last, that's for sure. You want to be somewhere in the front. So
Yeah, you would like to die, yes, early, but not
preferably
immediately.
early. But yeah, not too early. Some kind of fair balance there. Yeah, so that's a really nice change, and we'll see how that plays out. The Visage Grave Chill cooldown increased. So from 10 at all ranks, now 16, 14, 12, and 10.
Cool. Like it.
Nerf that Visage.
Totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Warlock Shadow Word duration increased from 9 to 11. Upheaval cooldown reduced from 50 down to 38 at the last rank, still starting off at 50. Cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
Digging it. Mid Warlock, able to put on some more pain,
That's
perhaps.
right. Well, yeah.
Midas
Shadow-
Lock,
Midas Lock, that's the only way to go, to be fair.
Fog's build, I believe. If I remember
Oh,
correctly.
that guy I
So-
beat? Yeah.
Dang. That's fine. Actually, this one I find very interesting, to be honest with you. Wind Rangers changes. Activating Wind Run now disjoints incoming attack projectiles, and Aghanim Scepter Focus Fire damage reduction decreased from negative 50 to 30 to 30 to 0, and no longer has special rules for procs. As the more resident Windrunner of the two, what are your thoughts on both of these changes?
Apparently, from what I was reading, it sounds like the first change, where it disjoints attack projectiles, was like that in Dota 1, and they didn't carry it over.
That sounded like a fix to me, too.
Yeah, so it
I
sounds
wasn't-
like they just wanted it. And it makes sense, honestly. As soon as you activate it, you should gain that evasion. And I like that, if someone shot a shot at you, it shouldn't hit you because you dodged it with your ability. I like that. I think it's a good change. Like you said, it kind of sounds like a fix more than anything. The Ogs upgrade, clearly we don't see Oggatives ever built on this hero. We talk about Oggatives on heroes. This one was literally worthless to get. It was like, why would I ever get that over all the other items I'm going to get on this hero? Still seems like a rarity to get, but for that late game semi-carry Wind Ranger, almost seems like an essential if you're trying to go that direction. Now, the interesting part is, is it really going to be more valuable to you to get that and a damage item over a sheep stick and force staff and things like that? I mean, it's a big balancing act, and it's really going to depend on what your team really needs of you. Some Quaps that go, or back in the day when Quap was actually picked, would go MKB or Desolator. Go for that auto attack build late game because they need her to be a physical damage source too. So you can see Wind Rangers sometimes go MKB or something and try to go for those procs or that auto attack build. But you could see Aghanim potentially getting picked up, but it would be definitely not a priority item. It would be later in the game, maybe third item at the earliest I could see it. But I still think this obviously is a huge buff to it, and it makes it at least somewhat of a reasonable pick, perchance.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting before and wish that there was some way to make it maybe more useful.
Wraith Knight.
Yeah, but I honestly really kind of like it. I mean, like you said, there are those times where you want heroes like Quap and Windrunner who sort of have the inkling of having physical damage potential to sort of go that route. And I mean, you could see a Wind Ranger with an MKB. Like you said, I think that your wind up is going to be more like, phase boots, force staff, sheep stick, and then you go, well, we need physical damage, Oghanims. Could see, like, a Maelstrom would be really interesting for if you're, more interested in heroes, or you could just ignore attack modifiers and just look to go for more straight-up damage so that you can punish towers. I mean, that, I feel like it's actually makes the ultimate a lot more attractive. But like you said, this is, I feel like, situational and a rarity where you'll find it. Although, we'll say you'll probably see more Windrunner Oghanims than you'll see Shadow Demon Oghanims.
Oh, probably.
Oh, probably.
And they did just buff the Focus Fire to be no cast point now, which is really nice too. So they did kind of give that little edge up. But yeah, good changes. I really like the Windrun Disjoint. So, bravo.
Yeah. Witch Doctor, Maledict cooldown reduced from 35 to 20.
Wow.
Holy crap. Death Ward base attack time improved from 0.25 to 0.22. Again, I'm digging back in the memory on this one, so you're going to have to forgive me if I want to say these are all in the changelog. Probably. I believe it was that Witch Doctor, when he died, bounces would just stop instead of continuing to go through all of their targets first, like the shots that were already fired. There was also, I feel like, something else for Witch Doctor, which I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But anyway, so he gets, I feel like, a little bit more help than we just see here in these two things. But even these two things I actually feel are really strong, especially the Maledict cooldown being reduced from 35 to 20. I mean, that's sizable. I don't know that you're I don't know that you're gonna be able to get two of these off on heroes, either because how are you gonna get into range twice? How are you gonna live that long? But just the opportunity to be able to use it twice is, I feel like, really nice.
Well, in 6.78, they did give that on 500. They increased the Maledict range from 400 to 525. In the AoE in the last patch, they increased it by 15. So they're trying to make Maledict more reasonable to use, I suppose. Obviously, the big buff for him last patch was that Voodoo Restoration initial mana cost change. So now it's just cheap as hell to use, as well as the AoE increase. I mean, they've done so much buffing kind of over time to this hero that they just really want to see him throw in the mix. I think that's a really large cooldown increase. I don't think it's necessarily for like the big wombo fight. It's not like for like the end-all fight that's why that's helpful. It's more for like, I think, the laning phase and ganking. It's like, okay, now it's every 20 seconds, so we can be more willing to use it and get off some nice harass damage over time. Base attack time also, I mean, 0.03 is pretty small, but when you think of it as out of 0.25, it's actually not that small. It's like an eighth, So it's like a 15% increase in potential damage output, you could say. So I think that's actually a really nice change. That seems small, but it's actually decently significant.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Wraith King, Mortal Strike damage ratio increased from 1.25 at rank 1, ending at 2.75, to 1.5 up to 3, and the base armor reduced by 1. Thoughts?
Sure.
Actually, in one of the Starladder games, Zai played a support Wraith King, and I watched this after I read the patch notes, and every once in a while they would, like, LD and Merlene to be like, oh man, Zai just won't go down. I'm like, yeah, not for long. He's going to start dying now because they reduced his armor by 1. I am a fan of support Wraith King personally, and I understand this being a push towards his late game potential and pushing him towards being weaker early on, which I kind of don't dig, but whatever. I guess it's even.
No, it's fine. I mean, reducing armor. He had a decent amount of armor. I think it was like 3 or 4. So now it's going to be 1 less, but he'll still be plenty tanky. That aura, the vamp aura, is going to still be delicious for his team, and he's still going to do just as much as he needs to do. So I'm not concerned with any of it.
And
here it is.
Last and certainly not least,
of the heroes.
All yours, my friend.
Yeah.
Of the heroes, yeah.
Don't worry, guys. Well, don't say don't worry. You guys are probably in heaven. We've gone so long, but I'm surprised our voices are still as crisp and clean as they were 3 hours ago. But
this is a recording. I went to bed a long time ago.
This is a recording, literally. But you mean your voice? Yeah. Zeus. Arc Lightning, you've made like 20 references to this here by now, so might as well talk about them. Arc Lightning cast point improved from point 4 to point 2, so it's even quicker now. The Lightning Bolt true sight range reduced from 900 to 750. The Lightning Bolt flying vision range reduced from 1000 to 750. But Lightning Bolt can now be cast on the ground, affecting the closest enemy hero in a 250 range. Feel free to do what you were talking about.
There's really not a whole lot to not like about this. First of all,
maybe the reductions in range.
I guess, but when you consider what you're getting for it,
Yeah.
I feel like this is an amazing buff, and this is also, too, I feel like giving Zeus a niche where he didn't necessarily have one before, other than just being like massive damage, AoE presence, snowball if you can kind of hero. Now has the ability to scout, to be able to look for things like Roshan. Maybe the fact that Ursa can do it even easier now maybe makes Zeus a little bit more viable. And, you know, when we talked about Sniper before, we talked about Han's equivalent, Flint Beastwood, and how his equivalent to Shrapnel allowed you to see Invis heroes. And we're like, maybe they should do that to make the hero more viable. Now Zeus can do it by targeting the grounds, and I think that is pretty slick. And can, if it's within 250 range, actually hit the hero. So that's also pretty cool. Already a pretty quick cast point on Arc Lightning. Now you can actually sort of chase people down even more easily. I feel like this hero just got a lot of help, and, you know, again, just given a niche where he sort of otherwise, I think, had a more generalized idea.
Mm-hmm. No, this is a great change, like you said, and just going to add more to him than just this guy that throws lightning out, and that's all he does. I mean, yeah, I guess that is still all
Well,
he
actually,
does.
still just
No,
like
that
that.
literally is all he does still, but at least he can do it in more unique ways. And the Arc Lightning buff actually is pretty nice to have too, making only 0.2 seconds for cast point. You know, that's his way of farming up in the early game, and then late game, you know, getting those casts off in succession is really important for you to get kills. So I just, yeah, all around, obviously great times, and we'll see how that goes with the casting on the ground and how completely frustrating it'll be for enemies when they try to ward.
I think, too, the other part about being able to cast on the ground is, you know, just beyond being able to scout for Invis heroes and scouting early, I feel like you look at what Zeus is able to do as time goes on in a game, and it just gets more and more dramatically reduced by BKBs, by just being flimsy and having no escape mechanism, the ability to get caught out. He really has sort of needed to be ahead of the curve the entire game if you wanted him to show himself as an effective pick. And now that he has the ability to sort of scout around the map a little bit more, to be able to investigate particular areas, to be able to de-ward, getting vision up onto a cliff, I mean, I think that that's all stuff that really makes him more attractive, because he's not just a one-trick pony and doing a lot of damage and being able to lay out a global.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, he's got a little bit more to him, and that's maybe something that obviously he's not going to be super popular, but hey, let him gain something here and there. I'm down for that.
We did part of it. We did part of it. Done the heroes.
Yay!
Without spending, I guess, too much time making up things for us to spend more time on, did you have a favorite, or maybe a couple top favorites, or the ones that maybe you think might have the best impact? Whichever of those questions you feel like taking.
Well, there was quite a few of them.
8 of them, I think.
8 in general. I think Naga Siren is going to feel a little bit of that impact. I think she's going to be a little less popular. I think Ember Spirit's definitely going to feel the impact of that, or at least I'm hoping so. The rest of them, I mean, they seem interesting, and like I said, all the Ogden ones, I don't think we land on any of them that we said, yeah, that's going to be used or implemented. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a lot of those changes come to life here. But all around, I think the meta's not going to shift dramatically. But I do foresee some, like we were saying, I think Ember, Naga maybe, and maybe a couple others are going to just fall a little bit from grace here, and maybe we'll see the rise of Jakiro and some other heroes in the near future.
Yeah, I think Vengeful Spirit's definitely gonna see an up spike.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a really interesting take on the hero and different from what other heroes are able to provide. I really like the Zeus one, even though I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have. It at least gives him a little bit more reason to be picked. And, again, there are teams, I want to say Alliance again, that have picked him a handful of times, even in big tournament games, to see what he's able to do and have used him to great success. And, I really do also like the Omni Knight buffs because I feel like they push him in a good direction. Even though I feel like he can still get a little bit hard countered, I am curious to see if he can be put to use.
And
But
Undying, of course, like we said.
oh, I think Undying is actually going to be a thing now again, and I'm excited for that.
For sure. Not to play against it in pubs, but to see it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alright, so on to the items. There's not too many, folks, so bear with us here. We're getting through it. The Animal Courier. The Ground Courier respawn time reduced from 180 to 140, so shaving 40 seconds off losing your Ground Courier here.
Cool.
Good. I guess that helps when you get ganked.
Helps Dragon Knights and Storm Spirits probably the most, because they probably are going to be needing the mana the most in order to help their last hitting. So I guess it makes it less crippling. Although I don't know, I feel like you should have to protect that courier too. And if you're that scared of it, then you either need to ward accordingly or meet your courier halfway. But
Not
40
too,
seconds.
But yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's nice. I guess it's not too punishing now to let that die. I mean, it's still punishing, but not as bad. Bloodstone, just gain extra 100 health from that.
Mm-hmm. Fine. That's
Great.
cool. Clarity Potion, longer duration, more mana gotten over the duration. I'm also cool with this. I guess nice to support heroes and the heroes that are going to be dropping a lot of mana on the spells. I mean, Centaur can now just bring mana pots and regen all of a hoof stomp from level 1.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So it's a little bit more. Instead of 3.33 mana per second, it's 3.375, and it lasts, like you said, up to 40 seconds. So
You and your math.
I did that probably at the beginning of the episode. It took me that long to process it, but no, it's a nice little buff for that item. Yeah.
This one is actually, I feel like, huge. I don't know about you. I think this is an amazing change, and I love it to death. Yield Scepter Divinity. Cyclone now deals 50 damage to enemies when they land. You can now cast Cyclone on yourself while you are magic immune.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff, dude. That's
That's
the stuff.
what dreams are made of.
All right. Yep. Please explain it to the people who are not following us right now.
Okay, so here's the first one. Blink Dagger, super relevant right now because it's free to not to purchase, but to use as far as not having a mana cost. I've been digging it, to be honest, but I can understand where you would have problems because, if you Yule somebody and they have a Blink Dagger, as soon as they hit the ground, they can blink away unless you have something instant to try to catch them with or something to put on the ground so they take damage immediately. They're going to just blink away. Now you're doing damage to them. They can't get away as easily. And being able to cast this on yourself while you're magic immune, great defensive capability. And this is an item that is really just not that attractive. And I wish I still had my item layout up here to be able to tell you how low on the totem pole it sits against other items. But it's just one that's not very popular, and I feel like these things really help give it purpose.
Yeah, against Blink Meta, this is now a reasonable choice. And yeah, that's another reason why I like it too. I think that's probably not the most obvious to people when they first read it, but yeah, it's something you should definitely consider as a support hero. And now we're giving even more supports more items to choose from, so that items is really getting pushed farther and farther away. But alas, what are you going to do? Manta Style, Mirror Image now resets the current attack and spell targeting priority. So, okay.
This is one that I feel like we're underestimating, and I will be honest in saying that I don't quite exactly have a grasp of the full impact. So I kind of don't want to comment on it because I looked at so many other things for the other items and heroes. Do you have any
It just
particular?
seems like, and apparently it also affects other image shuffling based spells like Chaos Knight's Phantasm and Naga Siren's Mirror Image. So it seems like, obviously, could be incorrect, but it does seem like when you use the item that, if like let's say a tower was attacking your hero, now when you use the item, it's no longer going to still continue to target your hero. Like, that's just a very base example, but essentially things that were using a certain priority, target priority, is going to get that changed up. Yeah, apparently, so when you manted, people attacking you would keep attacking you. Things like that. Thank you, Bonk, for shouting that out. But yeah, that's the kind of idea behind it. So now it really is adding to that confusion element that it's supposed to be one of the many ways you use it is to kind of throw into people, oh, which one is it? Now that kind of assists in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I feel like what the item's intended for, and so, I mean, making it sort of work 100% is fine with me.
Yep.
Mjolnir chain lightning damage reduced from 160 to 150. Poor Mjolnir. Static shock area of effect is now centered around the unit with the static shot rather than around the attacker, so adjusting sort of the cone at which people are attacked, the area that people take the damage. Fix chain lightning not functioning properly when it procs, while a previous proc is still bouncing. So this affects Maelstrom and Mjolnir, and makes them more reliable when they proc in sequence. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Nothing, I think, enormous. I mean, Mjolnir obviously really popular in this meta with like Marana and a bunch of different heroes like that item. So I think it's. I mean, the 10 damage is not going to break the bank here, but it's. I don't know. What do you think about the area effects center? Do you think that's a good change?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, you're using it as sort of a
defensive mechanism.
Yeah, or you're punishing the attacker, and so the people that are around you having the shield on, I feel like, are the ones that should get affected.
Right.
Not necessarily people that are standing behind the person that's trying to mess with you. So I think that that's fine. And to be honest, I think the damage thing might wind up coming out in the wash if the interaction between the multiple procs is functioning properly. So big change here, I feel like. Necronomicon Warrior movement speed rescaled from 350 up to 390 to or 330 to 390, pardon me, to 350. Yeah, and also the Necronomicon unit XP bounty increased from 59 up to 100, 150, and 200. Might be the death of Necrobook, at least in to the amount that we're seeing it.
Okay, yes.
Definitely
this will be a large hit to it. This is like when it was Hand of Midas meta, and they made the nerf, and then now only the carries get it again. Like this is gonna maybe put it back in its place of, all right, like maybe just Mid Invoker's gonna get it now, and a couple others, and that's it. It's. I mean, these aren't like the worst things in the world, but that warrior needs that move speed pretty badly to keep up with here, especially in the late part of the game. So to make it not incredibly fast, 350 ranks 2 and 3, it's going to be slower than what it was, and obviously you always level it up as a priority, so that's going to be a nerf. And then the XP bounty is a pretty decent one, from 59 all ranks, like you said, to up to 200. That's going to start over time, both of them feeding more XP, and yeah, I think that's definitely a solid change.
Yeah, and I mean, the pros I know have a lot to have to deal with inside the games, but you will see every once in a while, like especially the ranged necro unit just like thrown away from not being microed properly, and so I feel like it's definitely adds to it if you're able to control it and maybe not throw that away so much. But for the players that just sort of pop it and send it with the wave, you're not going to really be able to do that as much without having the other team get something out of it. So it's fine. You might go back to only seeing like one necro book on a team, Lord forbid, but I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Observer and Sentry wards, unless you have other thoughts on the necro book. Sharing wards with allies now requires a control key to override, so you can stop accidentally dropping wards. And wards can no longer be placed in the fountain area, so making it, again, easier for you to not drop them randomly. And there were actually also some other bug fixes with like placing them where buildings like had just been, and yada yada. So I think these are like nice changes. I think it also, we were talking about with Sigma and how they sort of screwed up Roxkiss's Roshan attempt because of just like DCing out because of misskilling. I feel like miswording is like one of those things, and if you're able to just sort of very simply cut down on the instances that that's going to happen, then that's why wouldn't you do that? Have a fewer number of remakes. I'm down.
I agree completely with everything you said there. Yeah.
Perfect. Flawless.
Flawless victory. Pipe of Insight. The pipe health regen reduced from 11 to 8, but now provides Insight Aura, which grants 4 health regen to nearby allies, and the active buff is no longer dispellable.
I really like all that. And I was thinking, I think when we've discussed Pipe of Insight before, mentioned that sort of the things that might make it more attractive are like general stats and stuff like that. I really like that they actually just didn't do that at all and just gave you the regen aura back for health regeneration. Because I was thinking about it, and you have this item that's geared towards blocking magic damage. If you add stats to it, then not only is it amazing for blocking magic damage to your party, you're personally taking less magic damage, and now you have additional health so that you can have something against physical damage too. Whereas I feel like if you're just giving it magic or health regeneration, then you're sort of saying that this item is about you being able to sustain some hits and then come back to form in a decent amount of time, which I feel like secures this item a situational role, which I'm okay with. I wouldn't want it to be sort of your everyday item,
No, I agree. I think it also just makes sense to convert to a regen aura, since you do make a headdress as part of it. So, yeah, let's keep that health regen aura from that item. Let the components really shine. The Insight Aura, though, something I'm not sure of. Wonder if it stacks with Mech Aura. Because they're different auras. So that'll be interesting to see if they do.
That is a lot of regen.
That'd be a ton of regen if you had both auras going for you. I'm kind of doubting they do, but you know what? There's a possibility. So
need that science.
That science will come through with us. Yeah. All right. The next one has a question. The last viewer question from Andrew Bila.
It's my favorite question, really.
Yeah, it really does pertain to us very well. With the reduced cooldown... let me do this. Well, Ravatos, the cripple ability cooldown reduced from 12 to 10 seconds. So, with the reduced cooldown on Ravatos, do you think the pros will start to love the item as much as you do?
Quick answer, no. No one will ever love Ravatos the way I do. It's the love of my life.
Oh, boy.
I will say that I think this change and the change to Scythe of Eyes actually are really important to read together. Hexed units' base movement speed increased from 100 to 140. And I think that really when you sort of look at what these two items do against one another, Scythe is more expensive, but yeah, you get the Hex. And because the Hex also slows so dramatically, you could kind of see Radavatos being not redundant, because I do feel like it's different, but it definitely does push Radavatos into a slow niche. I still think the fact that it can be cast from super long range, that it's on a short cooldown, that's a decent enough slow in duration, make it a useful and unique item as it is. But I think trying to tone down Scythe's ability to slow is also a great way to help it stand out on its own and make it a more attractive option, and I like it.
Alright, this item was created 6.73, okay? At that time, it had a 20-second cooldown, 250 bonus health, and 800 range. Now has a 10-second cooldown, half that cooldown, has 350 bonus health, so 100 more, and 1200 range instead of 800. It was a 50%, now a 60% slow. So, over the course of 8 big patches, has gotten major buffs, with no signs of stopping. So, when do you think we're going to hit that golden fine line where people are like, you know what, this actually could be good?
I almost wonder if it is like more on Scythe being worse. Or not worse, but just this movement speed thing. I actually kind of dig it. Because you are basically able to stop someone from functioning for an amount of time.
Yeah.
So if you say that that's also not, I'm not saying that you should be able to like move at normal speed or anything, but if you say that, well, do we really need to just stop them from running away, or do we need to lock or put them in a position where they're not able to function? You have a choice to make there. Whereas now, again, I think you could say that blanket statement side is sort of doing both of those things for you at the same time, albeit more expensively. And, if we see Undying coming back, this isn't a terrible item for him. Crobolus, Death Prophet, maybe a little bit stronger with the Yule's buffs.
Crystal Maiden, Ravatos, obviously. Yeah.
Of course. Who wasn't touched this patch, and I'm happy about that. You leave my lady alone.
Leave her out of here. Her sister was, but that's alright. She got buffed.
I touch her sister too, though, so it's fair.
Gave her the Penis rating to both of them at the same time. Improved that dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, though, with the Hex, that I would say is a nerf, although they call it a fix, they fixed Hex disabling Bristleback's Bristleback passive ability.
Mm-hmm.
So he does gain his protection through Hex now.
That's pretty big.
I'm surprised that wasn't like under Bristleback, to be honest. But yeah, that's a really nice buff for him as well. So, anyways, good all around. I agree. The Scythe of Eyes, I like that they move faster, make it not as powerful, like overwhelmingly powerful as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the way to counter Scythe in this day and age is to have someone on your team with 4 staff to get you out of there when you get Scythed. But yeah, I think that's more Ravatos buffs. Maybe one day, our viewer, maybe one day, other people will start to appreciate as much as us.
Yes, I feel like that was actually the most, like, between those two. I mean, it's all the int items. I guess Pipe was actually really good too, but I feel like Yule's, Radavatos, Scythe, and Pipe were the most interesting of the item changes. Shadow Amulet, Fade Time no longer requires target to remain stationary, so you can run while you're fading and then stop and be invisible.
It's like red light, green light. It's all imagining. Like, it's like you see the yellow turn yellow, like, oh god, I'm about to stop. I want to get as far as I can as possible. Oh, stop! I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And Shadow Walk duration increase nerfed again. I feel like this item is just back and forth every patch. Duration increase from 12 to 14 seconds. Oh wait, no,
That's
I'm
a buff,
retarded.
buddy.
It's
Last
been
time I
like
checked, you want to be invisible longer.
hours. It's been hours, Jay.
It really has been.
The brain it's just turning to mush at this point.
Funny story. I was talking to, I think it was Ollie, some viewer before the stream, and I think they posted. They said,
Yeah,
"Can't wait for the 3-hour podcast." I'm like, dude, there's no way we're doing 3 hours. I'm like, it's gonna be long, but come on, 3 hours. It's been over 3.5, sir. So we have been. You guys maybe have expected from us recently. We have delivered. I have to say that fully.
I also have to say that I thought this was going to be one of our fastest patch episodes because I was actually not excited about many of the changes, to be completely honest. But
here we are.
Let's finish because I still have a question to ask you at the end.
Oh, I can't wait for that. My brain's probably going to be great for it. Yeah.
We can do it. It's going to be great. Shadow Walk duration increased from 12 to 14 if it's longer. Buff, sorry. Town Portal Scroll added an option to require a halt command in order to cancel a Town Porter Scroll. I like it.
Added an option to require a halt command in order to cancel it.
Because sometimes you'd be like casting the spells, or you'd be trying to run real fast as soon as you come in, and you butcher it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yours truly does. So I actually kind of like that. That's like a nice way to sort of, just stop stupid things from happening. I mean, you could, I guess, go the other way with it and say, we'll pay more attention, but I think that's much like the ward thing, just a quick, simple way to make unfortunate accidents happen less.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it.
I do too. Woo!
Breathe deep.
I'm
Breathe
trying. Well done.
Here we go. We are champions. We are both champions.
Question
Here's the last bit. The thing that I feel like has been harped on the most of late in professional games, in not only what commentators feel like talking about, but even if you say that that's biased or something, the kind of heroes that you see being picked up really have made this last patch feel so much more Roshan-centric. than any of the ones previously, in my opinion. Even TI2, when you're pretty much just waiting around until Roshan respawns, this feels like the dire advantage in particular is so strong. I mean, TA has come back. Shadow Shaman's become viable because of the wards being able to attack Roshan. We now have Ursa, who's even better at it. Lycan even seeming to have his win rate affected of late when played Dire versus Radiant. It was a while ago now, I guess, when there were talks of moving the Roshan pit, and that sort of disappeared real quick. But I mean, how do you feel about the Dire Roshan in particular, and what is your your quick fix, Miss America? What would you do to end world hunger?
I want world peace. Well, I would
It's
probably give Roshan one armor, base armor, and
well
then I'd
fixed.
say we're done.
Fixed.
Unfortunately, there is no quick fix, so they probably would have done it by now. The thing with the map is it's so otherwise well balanced and created and thought out that to completely overhaul the map would completely change the game, and they obviously don't want to do that. They don't want to, completely impact everyone's strategies they've developed and professional ward placements that they've. I mean, yeah, you can obviously with a new map figure out these new locations you need and everything else. But the point is, with a game so competitive and now all this money on the line and sponsors and all these other things, it's kind of a big deal to make any drastic changes to the game. So that is a really tough thing to accommodate. I wish I did have a quick fix, but all they can really keep doing is making, I guess, Roshan either less of an impact when you kill him, I guess, like less beneficial as a whole, or making him harder to kill like they did. And I don't know beyond that what they've really got planned. How about you? What is if you're mayor for a day, what are you doing to get the key to the city?
I would say that I kind of liked reading the Jakiro buffs and seeing that, with the Aghanim Scepter, you can throw a whole lot of fire a really far away into the pit from a safe distance. Mm-hmm. And, you sort of have to force people to react to that. So I kind of like the idea, and I guess even Kodal the same way, if his Aghanim's buff makes him more viable, which, I think it does. You now have another hero that has this sort of long, high damage dealing poke into the pit, and so grouping up like that could be super detrimental. But I feel like it's really like those really early Roshan attempts that are so detrimental, and I feel like anything that you do that is pro or against Roshan himself is just either going to help or hurt both sides. It still always is going to feel like a dire advantage to me, and I feel like the only other way you'd be able to fix it is to unbalance the map in Radiant's favor in a different way. Hear me out. I'm going to make a law reference. At least you have Baron Nashor and you have Dragon, so you have sort of two completely different key objectives on mirrored parts of the map. I'm not saying you need a Roshan for the Radiant, but I'm wondering if you go like, oh, well, the Radiant jungle has like an extra camp, or the camps are laid out more beneficial for them. So you're saying, well, if you're Dire, you can get at Roshan, but if you're Radiant, you can maybe get a little bit more out of the jungle. Nothing dramatic, but I almost wonder if that's what you have to do. It just seems like this patch in particular, you hear so much about it. And I know in some of the Leech patch notes, they had a new Roshan pit, which seemed like even less balanced than it is now.
Yeah.
Because it was like off bottom right, like where no one cares about. The top lane is just like useless then. Like, why would anybody go top? So I don't know. You see that there are a lot of changes in these recent patches that have been just flat changes to Roshan, and I don't know that they're really having any effect,
Yeah, they've made him scale better. They've made, like you said, the earlier levels maybe a little more difficult to kill him. But now that Ursa can kill him at level 3, I mean, I don't know. There's just it's just like such a delicate thing to touch, unfortunately. And like I said, I don't think they can ever really restructure it without this overwhelming maybe mob with pitchforks coming after them, because I don't know, we saw what happened when they didn't bring back a certain game mode. I mean, God knows, if they change the pit, I don't even... Volva, like you said, they're going to be on fire, their factories are gone, I mean, their stock plummeting. It's just, it would be such an insane change to, like, restructure or move the pit, perchance, or, like, add another objective to make it kind of equaled out. There's no real room for that, unfortunately, so... This is probably something that I'm sure they've had it tabled for the longest time. Like, what do we do about Roshan? Well, we keep trying these things and see if any of it helps. Like, I don't know. Do you think something with the cheese, like maybe removing it, or I don't know? Do you think there's something else we can do to like make it not as valuable of a target?
Well, I feel like the change to the time spawn
that was
and not being
great
dependable
change.
Is fine for late. I feel like it's the early ones that are like the first Roshan, maybe even the second, that are really difficult to deal with. And just being able to move people around quickly and efficiently enough to be able to contest Roshan attempts. And, like I said, you have heroes like Shadow Shaman and even TA who have come back seemingly largely just because of their ability to kill Roshan. And, these heroes are seeming to be more popular on that dire side of the board. So It's a toughie. I'm not saying either of us are going to have the answers. We're smart men. I'm sure we do. And we're just not sharing them to try and be mysterious.
Oh, probably.
But something to think about. I don't know. Well, I don't know, Jay. Is there anything else that you could possibly talk about anything? Is that even possible? I'm sure you could find something.
I want to talk about sleep and how nice it must be to have that.
It must be. It must be delightful. I will say, I've been slacking on the show notes. This has been a crazy long episode, and so I'm actually going to go through and try to maybe not necessarily say where every hero thing is, but try to break it up a little bit.
I want you to do one for every hero. Okay, that's asking a bit much.
Yeah. But anyway, I will make sure the show notes go in for the YouTube video that you can check out at www.youtube.com/DodaOnDemand. You can, of course, check us out on Facebook and drop by and tell us what your favorite changes to the patch were, or even if you have any other thoughts, questions, disagree, agree. We're happy to bring them up next episode. And, of course, you can always tune in with us live when it's definitely Tuesday at Tuesday o'clock. At twitch.tv/DodaOnDemand. So go out there and mess with the new changes, guys. We'll see how they impact the meta. We'll see you next time, too.